I see it's crazy after working with men, of all ages. Uh, I see there's this huge vulnerability gap
Oh, man.
with women versus
Admit
men.
it. Admit it.
What?
Vulnerability gap. Admit it.
That was your term.
Thank you.
Yes.
I coined that vulnerability gap because of what we're going to talk about. But yes.
The women do not know how to be vulnerable about their own personal struggles, fears.
Hello, Chico.
Oh, did it start?
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at her dog. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Hey, Shannon. We're back on, man.
Yes.
Definitely. Yes. I before we start this episode, which I'm real excited to start, I just wanted a little, conversation. We got a couple things going. This weekend's a big weekend here in Dallas, Texas.
Yes, it is.
For us, it's called Texas OU. For Oklahoma people, it's called OU Texas. Or as some people put it, the Red River Shootout.
Red River Rivalry.
Red River
5 times fast.
Red River Rivalry.
Yeah.
Because it has the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma, both 200 miles apart, right in the middle of Dallas is the central part.
And I was just explaining to somebody who's not from the area that was asking about it and said, when you're driving on the highway, why do the signs say the TxDOT, which is the Department of Transportation, Texas Department of Transportation or whatever. And they're like, why do the TxDOT signs say like hook 'em horns and everything else? And I go, because the game's in Texas.
Yes.
But it's a neutral site. And
it's halfway between
Norman and Austin, but it's not in Oklahoma.
No, but there is a lot of OU people here.
So there's some liberties, though, that TxDOT takes to put on the highway. I'm sure it just angers people driving in from Oklahoma when they get to Texas and they see.
Well, and for people that are outside of Texas,
get your horns up.
That are outside of Texas on the other coast or wherever, Dallas being central, there's a lot of kids that grow up here in Dallas, go to high school, and they end up at OU. I mean, because it is halfway between.
Yeah, because it's close.
We got a lot of our friends. We got a couple friends, literally, both their son and daughter, their third daughter's at Auburn, but they both went to Texas, and their oldest two went to OU.
Yeah.
And so there's a fun little rivalry growing up.
Dallas loves it because it brings so much money to the economy because everybody has to get a hotel room.
Yes.
Because they don't live here.
Unless you're like us and we live here.
Everybody in Austin, everybody in Norman, everybody from Oklahoma, everybody that comes to town has to get a room and there's restaurants and everybody has to be fed. And then the state fair blows up because everybody spends dollars.
I think us, Texas, and it's, we always think we're bigger, but our state fair, if you never have been, it's off the chains, although it is also off the chains of your pocketbook.
Yes.
It's very expensive, but you can get fried everything there.
Okay. So we are going to host the seniors at Texas, my son's, our son, sorry. Our son's senior pledge class for dinner on Saturday night after the game.
Before they go to their formal, they ran out of place.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. And then they have dinner Friday night at someone else's home in Dallas. And so, any events in Dallas that are around the University of Texas have kind of fallen on Dallas, moms or Dallas parents to plan and execute and make sure everybody's, safe and fed and all the things. So this will be I was going to say my 8th time to host 100 people because this will be our 4th Texas OU. We've had 2 Big 12 championships and 1 Cotton Bowl playoff game.
We've had a lot.
A lot of people, a lot of hosting.
But we will get into, in our episode, we'll talk a
We
little
will,
bit
but
about that.
I'm just setting it up, okay?
Yes.
So I am hosting. And we will, in our episode, we will discuss why I say I instead of we. Okay.
Yes. And so the other thing that we want to share before, it's like we have our 26-year-old that moved back in with us, and he told me yesterday that he goes, it's time to find a place. He's had the money to find a place, but he's just been
enjoying rent-free. Well, he was paying double rent because this opportunity came up, and he took it in May, and he was still paying rent in Austin. And so, I mean, I would never make my hardworking child struggle like that to pay 2 rents when he has a room here. So we let him move back in, and then he has stuck around because it's nice.
But we had gotten comfortable with being empty nesters.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's going to be another part of what we talk about today, as far as, moms and dads, parents, how they deal with stuff. Because as a mom, when I talk to all my friends, they're like, oh my gosh, I would love it if mine came back and all this stuff. And I feel this shame for not loving having him here. And then when they say, oh, are you loving it? I'm like, yeah, not really. And they're like, what? Like,
no, we love our son. And
I love him, and I love the fact that he's back in Dallas and he's close. But I would love for him to have his own space. I mean,
well, a real quick difference before we get into
we're not getting into the topic.
I know, but I mean, I'm just kind of prepping people because I am fired up about this topic. But having a 26-year-old son, last weekend, my buddy called me, went to the SMU game, and Trav, you want to go with me? He invited a friend from Austin. Saturday morning, but boys, 26-year-old men don't even tell their parents, oh, by the way, someone's staying the night.
Yeah.
He had his girlfriend before she started law school. Oh, didn't even give us a heads up. By the way,
and my for women, it's like, I guess I need to be fully clothed before I exit my bedroom.
Yes.
To go to my kitchen to get a cup of my coffee in the morning. I have to get dressed.
And
when I have another 26-year-old man staying here, much less my son, he didn't want to see that either. I mean, he's...
Well, but here's the deal is I think back, when I was that age, I would have done the same thing Travis did, but I don't think you would have ever done that. You would have told your parents who was staying, asked permission. Women wouldn't do that. Girls, Travis's girlfriend wouldn't have done that. Would have asked, hey, can Travis stay? Or, hey, Travis.
I didn't even go in the kitchen when the kitchen was quote unquote closed. If my mom had made dinner, which was a bonus because I did live at home for a time period after college. And if she made dinner, I enjoyed it. And I always put up my dishes and everything else. And then when the kitchen was closed, because moms out there know, even women know, when the kitchen's closed, it's closed, and you don't want to wake up the next morning to, it looks like a bunch of rats have been in there like digging around, or bears.
And so today's episode, I like what you're saying. Today's episode, we're going to really talk about men and women differences. But today we are focused on women. I have talked to you about this. We have spent a lot of time together. And I really, as a therapist, as a coach, working with people, it's just come to my attention the differences between men and women. So today, and I'm glad.
Well, and this is one little difference, but I'm glad you're prefacing it with, we realize that men have a lot of issues and a lot of things that they have to deal with in friendships, in marriages, in relationships, in parenting, all the things. Men are just different. What you're saying is we're not going to focus on those today.
No, we are going to.
So I don't want anybody to hear us talking about women and then being like, well, what about the men? Just don't say that right now, because we're telling you up front that that's not what we're going to be talking about.
No, we wanted to spend this episode really focusing on women, and we will spend another episode really focusing on men and the differences and stuff like that. And so I kind of want to set it up, Shannon, for you. And I want to ask you some questions, you being the woman in this podcast.
Okay, good.
To really kind of answer that and let's unpack it. And I will admit I could be wrong. Okay. But what I see, having a structured sober living for, 15 to 18 years, having an all male treatment center, working with men, being on the board of this great program called Men in Nehemiah, and going down there and interacting with the men that have just come, off the streets, out of jail, stuff like that. Men can be open about their struggles. What I've seen is women, and so track with me before you respond. Women can be open about the struggles of their kid, of their husband, but not even so much of their husband. But the crazy thing is, now track with me, is I see women, we get this, I don't know what the word is, maybe it's misconception, because y'all do a good job as women spending time with each other, interacting, having phone calls, playing mahjong, setting up parties.
We have groups. Y'all have groups.
Y'all do dinners and lunches for birthdays. All right, there.
We do golf. We do
all those things.
All the groups, and they're ladies groups specifically.
And you have a great group of women, some different women that you interact with and share. And since you talk a lot, I think there's this misconception in our society that women really know how to share. I have seen this. I have been focused as a therapist asking women, what are they feeling? They don't know what they feel. We talked about that.
Right. They say things like, I feel like he doesn't listen to me, if you're talking about a spouse. Or I feel like no one listens to me. If you're on a committee or something, or I feel lost
I feel like you don't understand. I
feel stupid.
Yes.
I don't feel smart. I feel dumb. Are those feelings?
No, those are thoughts.
Those aren't even feelings, right?
And so my deal is we all struggle. I mean, that's, there's going to be struggles, and there's going to be seasons of bigger struggles than other struggles. If you're struggling with your kids, a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one, cancer, just loss of aging parents, control.
You're going to say, I feel out of control.
Yes.
I feel frustrated. I feel crazy. I feel nuts. I feel nutso. Nutso crazy. I feel whatever. None of those are feelings, though.
Yeah. So exactly. And so where I'm getting at is, I see, it's crazy, after working with men, of all ages, I see there's this huge vulnerability gap.
Oh, man.
With women versus men.
Admit it.
What?
Vulnerability gap. Admit it.
That was your term.
Thank you.
Yes.
I coined that vulnerability gap because of what we're going to talk about. But yes.
Yes, that women do not know how to be vulnerable about their own personal struggles, fears.
And I want to put a visual out there.
Hang-ups.
For vulnerability gap.
Paint a picture
for me. Take a picture of, a lot of times the gospel is described this way. So just picture, a road or a piece of land, and then there's a dip, there's a big hole, a big valley that comes up on the other side. So big U-shaped valley, and then it comes out on the other side, and you can't walk across it, okay? Because there's no bridge. There's no bridge. And so when presenting the gospel, you lay the cross down, and so Jesus is supposed to be the bridge between us and God the Father and all that kind of stuff. So, but in the vulnerability gap for women, if we get to the valley or the dip in the road that we can't cross with no bridge, the canyon, and we don't know how to bridge that gap to where what we really want to say. If we're in a group of friends and we're like, when I'm talking about, Travis living under our roof and it's really hard for me, I start to try to share. Well, it's hard because I'm doing the dishes and whatever. And then what women do is they try to bridge that gap. They try to build the bridge for me. They try to say, well, you need to be, some will say, you need to have him doing his own dishes. You need to demand that, you know? And then some will say, oh, it's only a short period of time. You're going to want that time back. Just do the dishes. And or whatever, they're coming up with solutions for the dishes.
Well, what?
But the real problem is I want to get to
what's the
I am feeling angry that he leaves everything out. I'm feeling.
Okay, pause on that.
Okay.
Real quick. I like that was the first feeling.
Okay.
But as a woman, I see it working with women is, man, women. I mean, I was meeting with a woman this week, 60 years old. She was told not to be angry from her parents. Good parents, her brothers. It's like that's unbecoming.
Most women are told not to be angry or loud or
and so it's like all of a sudden
they
you're
get
told
called
not
Karen.
to be.
Why is there a name for Karen? I know that there's a name for guys. I think it's Chad. But people don't use it. They only say Karen because women are not supposed to get angry or show their opinions or anything like that. And I, as a mom, am not supposed to say that my son's innocent behavior makes me angry. Or I feel angry.
You feel angry. He leaves his shoes down here. He doesn't put his dishes up.
Yes.
There's stuff. We have ants. We have ants running around when we go to bed, and he comes in late because he's working till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. It's like
there's a laundry list, literally.
Yes,
literally and figuratively a laundry list.
But that does not mean you don't love him.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, I would.
But as a woman,
and I've always said, as an empty nester, I have more quality time with my kids than quantity, and it's awesome because I enjoy them so much as adults. He is such an awesome human being and man, and tenderhearted and loving, and I love him. But he needs a wife. To be honest. I mean, he doesn't need a mom anymore.
No.
My job is done here. I'm clapping my hands together, wiping my hands of it. But that's where the vulnerability gap is for women when they try to get support. I want somebody to say, I'd be angry too, but we can't. There's that vulnerability gap. We get to that crossroad. I can't cross over and tell everybody that I'm effing angry.
And so what they do is they should on you. They tell you shouldn't feel this way. You should tell them to do this.
And even if I did cross over and got loud, and they would be like, "Oh my gosh, you need to not be angry because,"
or dramatic.
They would should on me and say, "You shouldn't be angry.
You should be grateful. You should love that he wants to be back."
I would love it if my child came back home. Oh, I would love it. I would relish every minute. And then I'm like, well, he can move in with you.
No, but here's the deal: is the vulnerability gap. I think that's just women lying to themselves. I don't think if their adult kids move back in after they've been empty nesters for almost 4 years, after 4 or 5 months, they would get tired.
Yes, and it's why can't people just admit that? It's like, I was another example. Are you ready for another example, or do you want to ask some questions?
I want to ask some questions.
Ask some questions.
What I believe, and you painted a great illustration, but my belief, and I could be wrong, my belief is the vulnerability gap also has to do with this fear of judgment from other women. You get this fear of judgment that, hey, if I share this and then they should on you, we try not to should on ourselves or others. they get into fixing, you're feeling judged. And that judgment then all of a sudden gets this sense of shame that kicks in.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I was going to say is that people in a group, women in a group, will hesitate to share with the group. And then in private, will make excuses for not sharing. And what I mean by that is a quick example.
I love this example.
Yeah.
Is this week's example?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, no, paint the picture.
Yeah. So I'm in a Bible study, and our leader is really a facilitator, but she is the facilitator.
Now pause.
Okay.
You've been a leader in this Bible study. It's called a facilitator. It's called.
We don't need to talk about what it is. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it's a Bible study where you do a lesson and then you answer questions. And some of the questions say for personal reflection or whatever, and it'll say
referring back to what the lesson
is apply to your life. Was there a time in your life where you felt scared or whatever, because we're talking about whatever we're talking about. So and in this particular Bible study, it's set up for you to say nothing or say share whatever you want. No one is forced to share or called on or anything like that. Okay, so
also, to paint the picture, what I like about this Bible study, it's non-denomination. People, Catholic to strong core. It's just it's all walks of where faith, people are spiritually.
Yeah,
and so
I only share when I feel led personally to share and want to share. And then you can get so much out of the group when the group kind of looks at you in support, because it's kind of like people that aren't familiar with 12-step meetings, you're not supposed to crosstalk really. I mean, you let people share, be vulnerable and share their stories. And then it is a safe place to share because there's not really any judgment that you know of in the group and everything. There's really not. But
but when you're in AA meetings and stuff like that is, and painting the picture is you share that vulnerability and you don't feel
or any 12-step meetings, AA meetings,
Al-Anon,
codependent
meetings. It's like all of a sudden, and we've talked about doing the work, is like you don't feel alone. So many times in our struggle, we feel so alone. And I think it's kind of what this episode's about, is that vulnerability gap keeps women alone. They stay busy,
right?
But they feel alone.
My whole point is that I think sometimes women think if they open their mouths in support, they're either exposing some part of their life. Like if I shared, well, I've had some struggles with my kids. So if I share that and apply that, I think women fear if they open their mouths and say, oh, I've struggled too, that they are exposing themselves. So they just keep their mouth shut. So what I'm going to say, this example was, there was a question for personal thought. And I said, yes, I went through a time with my child, and we were actually talking about Psalms, like going into battle, praising and singing, kind of the enemy of myself. I mean, it's all kind of related and crazy. But so I'm like, I found that to be very comforting when I was going through a hard time with my child. All I could do was I had no control over the situation, whatever. And I just learned to step into gratitude and pray. In my way, it was praise. For others, it could be just gratitude wherever you are spiritually, whatever. And I was sharing that. And people were nodding, like, oh, like putting their hand on women put their hands on their heart, in solidarity, in support.
Connecting.
And so that feels good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an AA meeting. There was no crosstalk or anything like that. But then no one else shared a personal thought, except for, anyway, a woman shared about losing her husband, and that was very vulnerable for her. And the women they put their hand on their heart and they, whatever. Okay. After group, the facilitator stopped me and said, "Thank you so much for sharing."
Okay, pause.
Okay.
I like that. She said, "Thank you so much for sharing." That would have been enough. But what happened?
So I would have left there thinking, okay, yeah, okay, I'm glad. I didn't need anyone else to share their laundry or anything. I didn't need anyone else to be vulnerable. But what happened, I felt good enough with the hands on the heart and the nods and the, whatever. And then the thank you for sharing. I felt good about that. And then she said, I too have had struggles
With my kid.
but I feel like it's his story. And so
So what went on in your head?
So immediately I was like, shame, shame, shame. She thinks I have shared my son's story and that I shouldn't have.
You're telling yourself all this in a nanosecond.
In a second, I was like, oh my gosh, I just betrayed my son.
All that happened just like that as you're sitting there next to this woman.
Yes.
And we talked about
it shuts me down. I'm like,
yes. And so we talked about on a previous episodes about, how we have, 48 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, old tape's probably kicked up. Oh, you're not good enough.
She was like, I know some of the women in this group, and I know they got so much out of what you shared and how you shared it. And I mean, she was just complimenting me
and shaming you.
But not even, she was making an excuse for her not being vulnerable.
Yes. And right there, that's the vulnerability gap.
I should have said something, but I didn't want to because it's my son's story or whatever.
Yes.
But that's the vulnerability gap. It's like, I know what's my story and what's my children's story and what's your story. I know how to appropriately share. And I know for a fact that I did not share anything that my children would disapprove of or say, that's my story. I know for a fact I didn't.
But right here, Shannon, I want to challenge that. Okay. That's where the vulnerability gap is. And I think it's just the way you're wired because you're a woman right there. No, that's your story. Your son is your son. He's our son. And his actions, just like my actions, can affect you. And so you have.
Well, I was sharing about how I had learned. No, I had learned to let go of him, and things have gotten so much better because.
Yes, but that's your story to share, and it's you weren't violating any of those things. But I think
it feels violating though, and it feel like it feels like because of what she said that I was violating my child.
But see, I think that's where the vulnerability gap comes in with women. Men, here's the difference, and it's not saying men are better, but men have an incredible ability when they are struggling to come alongside and share those struggles with other men more so than women.
Yeah. Yes. And there's also women more than men, I think, really, really think that their home, their children, their spouses, their dogs, their cats, their work, everything is a reflection of them.
Yes.
And their character,
their womanhood, who they are,
their smart, their abilities.
They're being a spouse, being a wife, being a mother, being anything. Being
hyper spiritual, where you are a sainted woman. I mean, when we were in Boston, can I share the church example? That's hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious to me. It's like eye-opening.
Okay, can I paint the picture first?
Sure.
About Boston?
Sure.
And so we just celebrated a little over a month ago, our 30th anniversary, but we went a couple weeks ago to Cape Cod and to Boston. And when we got to Boston, we did what, if you're ever in Boston, do the Freedom Trail. It's a 2.5 mile trail. It shows where Paul Revere, it shows I think Bunker Hill Massacre. It shows
John Hancock's grave.
It shows Ben Franklin's parents' grave. Ben Franklin grew up there, but most people think he's from Philadelphia.
Don't derail.
And it's all this cool stuff. And
the first public school.
Yeah, the church, what Shannon's going to share, the church where Paul Revere talked about,
the British are coming.
Yeah, where they would put the lights up in the steeple, the lanterns. One it by land, two it by sea. Right. So we go to that church.
And I like to visit churches everywhere we go. And when we were in Europe, you go into a lot of churches, and I just feel like there's such a reverence in when you visit churches. I mean, we've been to the cathedral in New Orleans, even in the middle of Bourbon Street. I mean, in the middle of the French Quarter. That's Sin City, basically. But there's something so reverent about going into a church, I feel like, personally. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I really wanted to go in that church, and so we did. And I was expecting to feel a real reverence for the American Revolution and what the people went through during that time, and the Boston Tea Party, all the things. And we go in, and the pews are set up like little cubicles, like little office cubicles, like wood boxes. And then the pastor, the lectern, is that what you call it? No, what do you call
it?
The
pulpit.
The pulpit. Duh. Okay. I knew that word. It just that's a menopausal brain. The pulpit is upstairs, it's up high so that you can look down in these cubicles. And so we were touring and reading about the church, and you had to own your pew, your little box. And then you could decorate it. I guess get the finest fabric that you want for your pew cushions. And I mean, I don't know what else you decorate your pew with, but it gave me a real oogie feeling as a woman, because I knew the pressure that those women must have felt just going to church to worship. It's like, oh my gosh, do we own a pew?
Good enough pew.
Do we have a good enough pew? And then,
are we up close enough to the pulpit? When
people walk by and they're like, oh, that's the West pew, and oh, look at that fabric. Why'd you pick that? This is happening in church.
Yeah.
That freaks me out. It freaked me out. And I don't think I ever really shared that with you.
But I'm glad you're painting that picture, because because where I see this gender gap, and we are going to talk, I'm going to stress it again. Okay. I'm a man, and I'm saying
But men aren't decorating the pews.
No, men aren't decorating the pews. Men aren't doing those things. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm saying we're going to talk about men. Yeah. But just what you're saying, you walk in, and so a woman's struggle is they're highly competitive. You're looking at
it. That is a reflection, but a reflection of the woman. It's not in monetary terms, it can be a reflection of the man. Like how much money you got to get the best pew, I mean, whatever. I mean, and today, now, homes, things like that, men can get some, pride about their profession.
But here's the deal. It comes out different. Comes out different. Totally. You're correct. And so I like the picture you painted with that church from the 1600s and 1700s, and how they had that, and how you just got that oogie feeling and going, I can just walk in.
Would be, I'd have to be prim, proper, polite, quiet.
Yeah, all this pressure that women, and so that creates that vulnerability gap. And so there's these standards to meet, and then underneath all those standards, underneath that stuff is what I believe, and it comes out different. Don't think when you're listening to this episode about men. Think about women. Women struggle big time with pride. The the pride of letting anybody know that they're struggling,
Yeah.
that vulnerability gap. There's this pride of I can't show weakness. I have to have everything put together, even in the cube 300 years ago.
Yes.
My family has to be all good. I can't have a kid that's struggling like the facilitator. I too struggle with that, but as a facilitator, I'm not going to do that because they might think I'm not a good facilitator.
Right. Well, and think about how women describe things like, oh, I'm so proud of my kids. I'm so
Yes.
proud of Johnny. I'm so proud of Susie. I'm so proud of my home. I'm so proud of my home. I'm not happy with my home. I'm not, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Comfortable with my home. I'm proud. I'm proud of my home. I'm proud of my dog. I'm proud of my
all this exterior stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like
I'm proud of my volunteerism. I'm proud of my little family. I'm so proud of my little family when I take them to church, and I'm so proud.
And so there's this competition, these standards to meet, this pride, and then it's like all of a sudden I see how I noticed it, and I've been noticing it more. Is women, we're going to go to some parties this weekend. We're going to host a party, but women size other women up at parties. They look at how their appearance, what they're wearing and stuff like that. There is this constant competition.
And women are going to say, so I just want to put this out there for our female listeners, is that women are going to say, I don't care what anybody else has on, or I don't like. I will compliment another woman. I'll be like, oh my gosh, cutest outfit, cutest, oh my gosh, love your shoes, because women are complimentary.
Yes.
But they have to really think about, they do care when they leave the house. I mean, I'll be vulnerable right now so Texas OU weekend is a lot of parties, a lot of outfit changes, because we're going to the game. It's going to be hotter than Hades. And so I have all of my outfits hung up on a clothes rack right now in our bedroom, because I got to go figure out what I'm going to wear.
Yes.
And it's for me. It is for me, not for other women to be like. So it's a different kind of competition. It's like I want to put my best self forward, because I don't want anyone to think that, I don't have it together, or that I don't know. But that's a pride. It's my pride.
Yes. But here's the deal. It's like,
I want to be proud of myself for my outfit.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And you want to look good. And there's nothing wrong with those things of looking good and having it together. I do believe, and this is where I'm going to ask you to challenge my thinking, is I do believe women, do those things, and not all of those things are, it's not bad or good, but where women really struggle, which men, you ask men this question, and most of the time they can't answer it. But what's the thing underneath the thing? And so it's like that. And what we mean by the thing underneath the thing, women will say, no, I really liked her stuff. But if you could see their face, I think there is that sense of judgment. Oh, she looks better than me. The thing, women aren't going to admit, man, I'm jealous, I'm insecure. Me being vulnerable, I shared with you some insecurities I had this past weekend. I don't see women, doing that. That's the thing underneath the thing, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. I just think that
I think society, darling, I guess, Shannon, I think society almost sets y'all up to be pitted against each other. In the workplace, in the home, with your kids, what are they doing? And
and I think it would be more, I think women tend to misinterpret things because they aren't as direct as men, maybe because men just say stuff and then walk on or just get over it, or they don't say it, or they don't think it, or whatever. For example, women are more likely to talk about maybe someone if they are really inappropriately dressed. Like, let's say tomorrow night we go to our son's fraternity party where parents were just kind of loosely invited. It's not a party for us. And mom shows up in a halter top and
cut off shorts.
Cut off shorts. Okay. So that is going to receive a lot more judgment than somebody that just shows up in a dress that you don't particularly like. It's not my style or whatever, but I'm not
okay. So that's a good example
on some woman that like.
That's a good example because me, I try to stir the pot sometimes and make a scene, and I'll sometimes show up like I'm dressed right now to a party, and my buddy will give me shit.
And now I would be insecure about that's why I have looked at you sometimes and said, it has given me anxiety, but I've said, okay, you do you, Chico. And I let you wear flip-flops to a private club that wouldn't let you in flip-flops, but I said, you do you, that's fine. You wear your flip-flops.
And then I had to drive back.
In my head, I'm like, I know that women particularly are going to be judging the SHIT out of me because my husband is such a ragamuffin, but you got there and they wouldn't let you in.
But right there.
Drive home.
Yes, but right there, what you just said is true.
Yeah.
You said women will judge you for my behavior.
Yes, because they're like, can't you dress him?
But here's the difference between men and women. Your behavior, men won't judge me for your behavior.
Right.
That's where that gap, that vulnerability gap comes in, is because women struggle opening up and sharing whatever there's.
What your kids do too. And if they say they don't, then
they're lying.
You're lying. It was a growth thing for me. When I gave birth to my first baby boy, and within 3 months, I was saying I was never going to do things that I quickly turned around and did. And I said, you know what? I should never say never and it would be like, judge, like, oh, I can't believe they did that as a mom and whatever. And I mean.
And so right there, that's the vulnerability gap is women struggle. I asked a client of mine, our age, and I was sharing these ideas about this episode with her. And I love what she said. Women are scared. I'm scared to give women information because they'll use it against me. And that's her good friends.
Yeah.
So she doesn't say anything if she's struggling with whatever.
Yeah. Well, and women have a ironclad memory too. And so I have had friends say to me things like, when I decide I'm just going to say something so benign. When I decide to use a laundry detergent, that all of a sudden they would say, and I would say, wait, I said that 20 years ago, and it was when the kids were a baby, and I watched it, and we had a reaction or whatever. But women have a steel trap memory. Or if you say, I don't like that kid or whatever, which I've always hesitated to talk about children because it's just a bad idea. But if you said, ooh, I don't know, they're in class with so-and-so, he's kind of wild, which could be easily talking about either of my kids at any time. But, say, oh, your kid's in class with that kid, they're kind of wild or whatever. That was in second grade. And then you're talking about college and they're in a room together or something. And then
But the craziest thing is,
I know I'm getting off on it.
I see it. It's like, it's that judgment. And the women that I see in my practice,
there's not much grace.
It's no grace. It's like, but
let's re-talk about that.
If your husband's struggling with addiction, I have this woman, she comes in She calls the husband's best friends. They go, they pour into him. He's starting to get better, but she won't share anything with anybody. And I ask her, no, because the women will judge me. Why are you with him? Why do you stay with him?
No,
If
they
someone,
will. They remember.
it's like,
Don't tell your mom about somebody that you might get back together with. Like, they would say if your boyfriend cheats on you in college and you might want to marry him, don't tell your mom because she'll never forget.
yeah. And so if
Not
it, and
it
so women,
or whatever.
a lot of times, if they have, you know, had, a husband that's struggling drinking, or maybe there was an affair or something like that,
Yeah.
they're not going to share because they're afraid of the judgment these women will have towards them
Yeah.
and towards their husband.
Well, and I'll tell you a 25, 26-year-old example too, because it's a good one of my best friends. And I won't say who or how she was my best friend, but she's one of my best friends. And we went to dinner one time 26 years ago. And I came home from that dinner and we talked about I was able to say, you know what, you really hurt my feelings last night on several occasions. Here, let me read the list to you. But it was like everything I did. For example, I breastfed. Okay. I don't have any judgment. Anybody can do whatever they want to do. But at that dinner, she said, I would never breastfeed. I don't want to breastfeed. I just want to blind them up, blah, blah, blah. Okay. There were like 5 things that she said without me saying, I'm breastfeeding or I'm doing this or she was just, she was just shouting out her opinion on 5 hot topics, but all of them I had done and she said she would never do. And I was like, what if I admit that I do these 5 things, what is she gonna think of me? And they were 5 good things to do or whatever. Like, I have no idea why that was her hot topic. But it really affected me, and it affected my vulnerability, it affected me sharing, it affected my whole night. It kinda ruined my night and my time out with my friends, and I was able to address it, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," and to this day, she's super opinionated and it
She has hot sports opinions on
yeah,
everything.
she has hot sports opinions. It's like hot topics of the day on the View,
What else I see, Shannon, is I see a lot of women struggle with, the vulnerability gap. Is that they're vulnerable about their own struggles. They're fearful that they're going to burden those close to them if they share that.
Yes, because I didn't
Does that make
yeah,
sense? And so
I'm
it's like
never in a mood
this.
for a debate, and so it's just you just comply
Yes, but you don't share. And I
and not
was
share. Yeah.
I was seeing these women. They'll come in and they'll share in therapy,
Well, right.
but to have true community and share with someone else, they're thinking, oh, uh, I'm going to burden them. They won't, they're going to get in there and they're assuming that person, and most likely, if it's another woman, is going to get in there and fix and shit on them and stuff like that. But there's this sense of, hey, there's this phone.
Yes, and women can hardly finish a conversation. When we get together, you're right, we all talk at once and we all, kind of absorb things, but you can hardly get through more than a couple of topics in a 4-hour period.
Yes.
Like, you can bring up, does anybody take magnesium? Well, that is an hour-long conversation about what type you take and whether or not you take the kind that's a laxative, but you don't want to do that. You want to take the one that helps you sleep and everybody has a hot take. Everybody
yeah. So right here. So let me see if I'm correct. There's women have y'all's minds are always running.
Yes.
And so it's like you always have all these different thoughts and opinions and you feel this need to get it out. But if you go to other women and try to be vulnerable about your struggle, whatever that struggle is, it's like you're going to get all these opinions and you don't know what. And it's like,
and women don't listen. They don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. And so they sit there, and if you're vulnerable with a problem, like I have trouble sleeping, all of a sudden no one's listening to what you're saying. Like, I could, they're saying, oh, well, you should have your hormones checked. And, in my mind, I'm like, check, I've done that. Check, all the things. And people are just shouting things at you. And then they're talking about themselves and what they do and all this stuff. And then, weeks later, you might get a text saying, hey, you were talking about sleeping. Like, what do you, what did you do about that? And it's
Okay,
like,
so correct me if I'm wrong.
nothing, because no one listened.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I'm really seeing and getting this picture more about is women, even though they have a lot of opinions and a lot of answers and a lot of different things going on, they get this illusion or delusion that they're actually vulnerable, but they're not.
Totally.
And so it's like, how do you tell women you're actually not vulnerable? You talk a lot, you have a lot of opinions, you have a lot of different information out here.
Yeah.
But you're actually not vulnerable. Talking doesn't make you vulnerable.
Right. Yeah.
You don't share what's really going on.
And yes. And sometimes
I was meeting
sometimes substances are involved, like wine. And then it's really wasted time and space and vulnerability, because you might think you're vulnerable, but then not really kind of absorb. I don't want to say like not remember, like blackout time, just like you're loose and you're talking, and then or you do remember what you were sharing with someone, or about yourself, or sharing advice, and you're like, that probably wasn't the best advice, but I was a little loose with the tongue or something. And I sure, they're talking about DMing their ex-boyfriend on Facebook or whatever. And I was like, sure, that's a great idea. And then you wake up and you're like, that's a terrible idea. I'm speaking for my divorced, friends or whatever.
So here's the deal. Today I was meeting with my accountability partner, and he's involved also with Men in Nehemiah, and we're talking, and I was just kind of sharing these thoughts with him. And Men in Nehemiah, to paint the picture, what we go down there on Tuesday nights or on Sundays is it's a 9-month treatment program. These guys have come out of prison, had rough lives, experience, bad stuff. And they'll get up and there'll be this worship time, but then they'll share 3 to 5 minutes of their story and talk about some of their stories are, hey, I was sexually molested, or I ended up in prison, I was in this gang. And you've been down there and you've heard that. And it's like, as men in the audience, we can connect. Oh, really see that could be me. There's that sense, that place.
Yeah, it's not me, but it could be me.
It could be. It's not me, but this could be me. Yeah. Thank you, Lord. I have a friend who lost a daughter, and he goes, man, if I gotta grab a hold of God, or I'll end up here. And he said it, and this man has everything in the world, except he lost his daughter, which is just gut wrenching. But I was sitting there thinking, if there was women of Nehemiah, and I don't know if this is true or not true, but if there was a program like Women in Nehemiah, and there are programs like that, but where there's just that honesty in front of just, random people to come worship.
Yeah.
I was prostituting myself. I was doing this. I was doing that.
Yeah, but you have to take, from the beginning of time, women have been shamed for bad behavior.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that has created that vulnerability gap.
Yeah, yes.
So I'm giving you 110% of the credit. That's what I've been trying to say and talk to you about for the last month. And you summed it up well. It's women don't know how to be vulnerable.
They don't.
Hear it today on Filter Optional. And man, we want to help women. Men need help too. That's a whole different episode. But women do not know how to be vulnerable.
Yes. We're just softer.
What do you mean?
I mean, just softer in our ways. We walk softer, we talk softer generally,
Yeah.
we touch softer, we finesse things, softer. We're just softer.
Yeah. And so
So
vulnerability.
I mean, it can appear that we're vulnerable because we can be meek.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So that's why I'm glad you're asking. I asked the question.
Yeah,
It's like it appears like vulnerability because you are softer, your voice is
because
softer,
we're meek and
you're meek.
we can be on the sidelines.
Yes,
It appears that we don't have pride because we're not out there on a stage,
yes.
you know,
But there is
wearing a crown.
there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of this vulnerability gap.
Yeah,
Men have pride, but
yeah,
and it comes out different. But women's pride is that this sense of competition, this sense of comparing, this judgment. I talked to another woman as like her. I mean, she's our age, and her sorority sister didn't want to look at her house because she had gone through a divorce and didn't want to see her home. What another sorority sister said from 35 years ago because she was jealous, and so she avoided that.
yeah,
And they had this they were even roommates in college, and so there was this sense of competition right there.
yeah.
It's just like, man, how do I become vulnerable? And so today's episode is I really want to challenge the women, but as men, I want to challenge you today to go, your wife, if she's being vulnerable to you, take that as a gift because she probably is not vulnerable with the women in their life. Hold space for her. Give her that opportunity to share. You don't get in there and fix or shit on them. Get in there and hold space and connect right there. So if you're a husband, if you're a man and you have a girlfriend, it's if you're if that girlfriend or that wife is crying, that's all right. You have the ability, we have the ability, and that's why Shannon and I both, really like looking at the Bible is like you see men crying in the Bible. You see
Women
David
don't have a
crying.
problem with crying. We need to
Yes.
wrap this up because now you're getting into man territory.
Yes.
That's why we're
Okay.
softer. We appear vulnerable because we can cry. So
Yes.
that's not a problem.
But they're struggling with that vulnerability.
Yes.
The crying could be a mask of that.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
everybody, think about the gap that women have with vulnerability. And until next time, hook 'em horns.
Okay. Thanks.